Welcome back to the Crime Decoder, where we dive deep into the stories behind shocking crimes that deserve to be heard. Today, we're unraveling a heartbreaking case from Arizona that shook a community and sparked change across the nation. This is the story of Noor Al-Maleki, a young woman whose light was extinguished too soon. Let's step into a warm Arizona afternoon, where an ordinary day turned into a nightmare. It was October 20th, 2009, in Peoria, Arizona, a quiet suburb where life moved at a steady, predictable pace. The sun was high, casting long shadows across a government office parking lot. Two women, Noor Al-Maleki, a vibrant 20-year-old, and Amal Khalouf, a 43-year-old family friend, were walking side by side. They'd just finished some routine paperwork at the Department of Economic Security and were chatting about grabbing lunch. Their laughter echoed softly, a moment of normalcy. Suddenly, the air was shattered by the roar of an engine. Tires screeched against the asphalt. A silver Jeep Grand Cherokee surged toward them, its speed unnatural for the quiet lot. Noor turned, her eyes locking onto the driver. She knew him instantly. It was her father, Farley Hassan Al-Maleki. She screamed a desperate plea, but the Jeep didn't stop. In a horrifying instant, the vehicle struck both women. Amal was hurled nearly 30 feet through the air, landing with a sickening thud. Noor was hit even harder, the Jeep rolling over her body before speeding away. People nearby rushed to help, their voices frantic as they called 911. Amal, dazed and in pain, struggled to understand what had happened. She looked for Noor and saw her lying on the pavement, blood pooling around her, her breathing shallow and labored. At first, people assumed it was a tragic hit-and-run. But as police arrived, the truth began to emerge. This wasn't an accident, it was a calculated act of violence. And the man behind the wheel, Noor's own father? His motive wasn't money or a sudden burst of anger. It was something far more chilling, tied to deep-seated cultural beliefs about family honor. This case isn't just about a crime, it's about a young woman caught between two worlds fighting for her freedom. To understand why this happened, we need to go back to Noor's beginnings. Noor Al-Maleki was born in Iraq in 1989. In a culture where a daughter's actions could define a family's standing in the community. Her name, meaning light in Arabic, suited her perfectly. Friends described her as warm, creative, and ambitious, a soul who brought brightness to those around her. But to her father, Fala Noor was more than a daughter. She was a symbol of family honor, her every choice scrutinized for its impact on their reputation. When Noor was 4, her family left Iraq for a new life in the United States, eventually settling in Arizona. They moved from Glendale to Phoenix, then to Peoria, carrying their strict traditions with them. In their household, Fale ruled with an iron grip. As the eldest of 7 children, Noor was expected to cook, clean, care for her siblings, and obey without question. Defiance wasn't just discouraged, it was met with harsh words or physical punishment. Fale saw this as love, a way to protect his family's image. But outside the home, Noor thrived in a different world. She excelled in school, speaking fluent English and Arabic. She made friends, helped classmates, and worked part-time jobs. Teachers praised her quiet strength. Friends adored her kindness. After high school, Noor enrolled at Glendale Community College, dreaming of becoming a teacher. She started earning her own money, buying jeans and makeup, and sharing her life on social media, small acts of independence that felt like freedom. To Fale, these choices were rebellion. Every selfie, every friendship, especially with boys, was a challenge to his control, a crack in the family's honor. Noor was caught in a tug-of-war, her father's rigid traditions versus the freedom of the American life she was embracing. The tension was building, and it was about to explode. In her late teens, Noor's life took a darker turn. Her family planned a trip to Iraq, which she thought was a family visit. But once there, the truth came out. Fale had arranged for Noor to marry her cousin, a man she barely knew. She wasn't asked for her consent. Obedience was expected. Surrounded by relatives who saw the marriage as honorable, Noor felt trapped. Despite her protests, the pressure was overwhelming, and she reluctantly went through with the ceremony. For Fale, the marriage was a way to enforce control, to mold Noor into the obedient daughter he demanded. For Noor, it was a prison. But she refused to stay confined. In a bold move, she left her husband and returned to the U.S. alone, a public rejection of her father's authority. To follow, this was an unforgivable disgrace. Back in Arizona by spring 2009, Noor moved into her own apartment, determined to build a life on her terms. She focused on school and work, but her family didn't let go. Relatives harassed her at her job, spreading rumors that led to her losing her income. With no money, Noor was forced to return home, where her father's anger was relentless. The household became a battleground, and Noor knew she couldn't stay. Noor's courage was undeniable, but her fight for freedom was putting her in danger. That's when she turned to someone who would change her life. Desperate for safety, Noor sought refuge with Khalaf, a family friend from Iraq who had also immigrated to Arizona. Amal, a single mother in Peoria, welcomed Noor into her home with warmth and love, becoming like a second mother. In Amal's house, Noor found the peace she'd been missing. She also met Amal's son, Marwan, a kind 19-year-old who shared her values and dreams. Noor and Marwan's friendship grew into a gentle, respectful romance. For the first time, Noor felt truly seen not as a possession, but as a person. Amal treated her like a daughter, and Marwan offered love without control. But this happiness only deepened Falez's rage. To him, Noor's independence, living with another family, dating Marwan, rejecting the arranged marriage, was a public humiliation. One night, Fally showed up at Amal's house at 1 a.m., pounding on the door and demanding Noor return. Terrified, Noor hid in a back room, and Amal called the police to intervene. Fally left, but the incident left Noor shaken. She confided in Marwan and friends, admitting she feared her father's anger was escalating. She sensed something terrible was coming, but she refused to give up her newfound freedom. Noor was building a life she loved, but her father's obsession with control was about to turn deadly. On October 20th, 2009, Noor accompanied Amal to the Department of Economic Security office to help with paperwork, using her fluency in English and Arabic to translate. Both of them unaware that Fally was watching. Surveillance footage later showed his Jeep parked in the lot for over 40 minutes, waiting silently. He followed them inside the building, his presence unnerving Amal. When he left without a word, she felt uneasy, but convinced Noor to check the parking lot for safety. As they circled back, Amal accidentally locked her keys in her van. They called Marwan for a spare key and decided to walk to a nearby restaurant to wait. As they crossed the lot, the Jeep reappeared, roaring toward them. Fally, eyes filled with rage, aimed directly at the women. Amal screamed, "Stop!" But the vehicle struck them with devastating force. Amal was thrown 30 feet, suffering a fractured pelvis and broken bones. Noor, run over by the Jeep, lay broken on the pavement, blood pouring from her mouth. She had massive head trauma, internal bleeding, and facial fractures. People around tried to help, but Noor's condition was critical. Fally fled the scene, leaving his daughter and her friend to die. Detective Chris Bowie of the Peoria Police Department led the investigation. The evidence was chilling. Surveillance footage showed Fally waiting. Tire marks confirmed the Jeep's path, and witnesses described the deliberate attack. Cell phone records revealed Fallo's calls to family members before and after the incident, suggesting premeditation. But before police could arrest him, Fallo vanished. He abandoned his Jeep near Nogales, Arizona, close to the Mexican border, and fled to Mexico, then boarded a flight to the UK. Authorities tracked his movements, and Interpol flagged his name. At Heathrow Airport, British officials denied him entry due to a U.S. arrest warrant and sent him back. On October 31, 2009, Fally was arrested in Atlanta and returned to Arizona. Meanwhile, Noor fought for her life in a medically induced coma at St. Joseph's Hospital. Her injuries were severe, and a urinary tract infection developed into sepsis, a deadly condition. Despite the doctor's efforts, Noor's body couldn't recover. On November 2, 2009, she was taken off life support and passed away. Fally faced charges of second-degree homicide, aggravated assault, and leaving the scene of a serious injury collision. His trial, starting in January 2011, drew national attention. Amal testified, recounting the attack and Fally's prior threats, including the night he stormed her home. Experts explained honor-based violence, clarifying it stemmed from control, not religion. Jailhouse calls revealed Fally's lack of remorse, with his wife coldly stating, "Noor brought this on herself." The defense portrayed Fale as a struggling immigrant father. But the evidence footage, phone logs, and witness accounts was overwhelming. On February 22, 2011, Fale was found guilty on all charges. On April 15th, he was sentenced to 34.5 years in prison, 16 for homicide, 15 for assault, and 3.5 for fleeing, served consecutively. The judge declared that cultural beliefs do not excuse violence. Noor's case was a landmark, one of the first publicly tried honor-based killings in the U.S. It prompted law enforcement to train officers on recognizing such abuse. With Detective Bowie leading efforts to educate agencies nationwide, the AHA Foundation used Noor's story to create resources for schools and shelters, helping identify at-risk individuals. Her name became a symbol of courage, inspiring others to stand up for their freedom. For Amal and Marwan, the loss was devastating, but their love for Noor endured. Her legacy lives on in training programs, policies, and conversations about cultural pressures and personal freedom. Noor, meaning light, continues to shine, reminding us of the cost of control and the bravery it takes to break free. Noor Al-Maleki's story is a powerful reminder that freedom comes at a price, but it's a fight worth having. Her courage changed lives and systems, ensuring her light burns on. If this story touched you, please subscribe to Crime Decoder for more cases that demand attention. Share this video, leave a comment about what Noor's story means to you, and hit the notification bell so you're ready for our next episode. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you soon.